Hello.
I think we are live.
Hey,
Awesome.
awesome. I guess we can start in a minute or two. Just let people join
Sure.
in for a while.
Of course. Ishaan, you're from Delhi, right?
Yes, I'm currently in Delhi,
But
but I'm planning to move to Bangalore, right? And a
nice.
huge reason is the event that you held in
Okay.
Bangalore. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. That. So I've stayed in Bangalore before,
Hmm.
but that sort of introduced me to this entire um, community of people, right? And that was amazing. So,
Nice.
yeah,
That's good.
planning to go there.
That's good. And you were born and brought up from Delhi.
I have stayed everywhere in India. So, yeah, my
Awesome.
parents are from Jharkhand, but I've never stayed there. So I'm just like
Okay.
traveling around, and now I might settle in Bangalore. Let's see.
Nice. Nice. That's good.
So,
So, hmm.
I think a lot of people that you've introduced me to are from like alumnus from your college, right? Also,
Yes. Mhm.
so
Yes.
where
Either alumnus from college or colleagues, work colleagues from in Mobi and other places. So yeah, both ways.
Wow. So you are from IIM, right? Like,
I am Calcutta. I'm from I am Calcutta. Undergrad was in RV College in Bangalore, and schooling was in a place called Chennai, Vidyamandir, Chennai. Um,
Mhm.
Good is like I stayed for 14 years in the same school, so parents didn't shift me around school. So, and being a kind of a reasonably prominent school in Chennai, got to make a lot of friends there. And given if you stay in the same place, there is also a community of other school friends you make, like people from
Yeah,
other
yeah,
schools, and
yeah,
this thing, and
yeah,
you more or less know the whole Chennai ecosystem, which eventually spilled over into the SaaS ecosystem from Chennai as well. So I
yeah.
think it's privilege or some form of luck, which I have good connections or good friends to make out from the SaaS ecosystem. College was in Bangalore, which is also another luck and privilege because once you get out of in Bangalore into the tech scene, Harvey being a kind of a reasonably good college in Bangalore, you also got to make a lot of friends who are in the tech ecosystem in Bangalore as well. Because generally, if you're people who come from Bangalore who and if the tech ecosystem in Bangalore itself is growing, they don't have a reason to go out, go abroad,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
go this thing. So they also stay within the same place as well. So you make a more larger community ecosystem. And IIMs as such always have that kind of uh, you end
yeah,
up with a good crowd overall who are also kind of like ravenously hungry and want to do something, do well, and other things. So they end up in good places down the line.
yeah, yeah. I think we can start now, right? So
Sure,
I'll quickly start with introductions.
of
Hey,
course.
I'm the founder of Sphere Growth. We are a B2B SaaS marketing agency. We run ads and SEO. So Shri and I connected on LinkedIn, right? And then I saw software. I saw a video of their software. I think it was posted in one of your either by I think someone in your team or on your LinkedIn profile, and that just I just fell in love with what we could do. What would that mean for our clients? And I think we've been speaking ever since. So Shri, like I think
Nice.
maybe it's you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Hi, Srikrishna here. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO at Factors.ai. We are a B2B SaaS marketing analytics and attribution product, but very, very simply, what we do is we aid marketers to take better decisions with data, and that's what we do. And we are in the space of analytics and attribution, so we love data wherever in whichever form it comes from.
Yeah. So I think attribution is something that people have been solving for a very long time, and then I think we saw this trend of uh, like the entire billboard ad phase where we did not have any attribution, then we increased, and now we're again trying to move away from it, and there's this entire uh, yeah. So like, since when have you been in the marketing field, and like what have you like noticed here, I guess?
So yeah, with regard to my marketing field, I've started pretty early. Just right after I joined a company called Dabur India Limited, and I was one of the assistant brand managers for a brand called Odomos, but more the rural version of it, Odomos Machar. So doing the rural heart markets in Western UP, going around each place to do the whole branding and getting to understand like what is the size of each lot which we need to send, what will be the kind of pricing, how's the margin, what will make people buy, how to compete against another more entrenched eucalyptus oil competitor, etc., was one of my first stints around marketing, and also the whole gating. So FMCG companies are doing marketing for almost like 70, 80 years. So the whole concept about soap operas, PNG, marketing mix modeling, everything came from FMCG companies where they wanted to advertise their products. They have the whole system of like how they're going to position, how they're going to get to the market, how this thing. And one is like you can learn a lot from that, but that was my first exposure to marketing. Later from there, I joined another company called InMobi, which is the mobile ad tech world. So completely from an FMCG world into a mobile ad tech world, which was starting to grow. InMobi was a kind of a revolutionary company. It was India's first unicorn. And more importantly, like most companies are advised to saying that, okay, you have to build your market in US. InMobi went east. Their first biggest markets were China and South Korea and Japan. And from there, they built on, and then they built a very large multi-million-dollar business, almost close to $1 billion business in terms of revenue, this thing. And I grew with InMobi as well. I built a whole P&L of more than $125 million at InMobi. And I was reporting to the CEO, Naveen Tiwari at InMobi, and also doing the device monetization business as well. So my experience at InMobi, one, showed the scale of mobile and digital marketing expansion, and also how closely it is related to the each and every year marketing evolves. And that's the great thing about marketing. It's not something like a one fixed thing where like it's a Gauss law or a chemical law which just stays through history. This is more like every year there is some new channel, there is some new way to do it, a new way to reach customers and enable the customers better, or get your brand on top of mind, better recall, and run the sales better. And we evolve with it, and that's what marketing makes a lot of kind of like, it brings the most creative people around it. But now with the ability to attach data to it at each and every point, it also brings a lot of good data science and ability to understand data science, and also use data to actually deliver better results. So that's where companies like us come in.
So just like one more, so you have seen a lot of marketing, right? So for example, even with Dabur, with you going into the different, like going and almost physically collecting qualitative data, and then now you have access to both qualitative and quantitative data. uh, like why data? Even though I love data myself, give me a sheet, I'll have a good 30-40 minutes, good time for 30-40 minutes playing with it. But like out of the strategy, there's a lot of other things. So why did this stick?
So at a very simple level, right? It's not that data was away from marketing or people didn't look at data, right? I mean, I come from IIM Calcutta, which was in 1960s, and we have professors who were actually both either students in the 1960s, then went on to work in the Unilevers, Nestle's, and Britannia's, and the others of the world. Data was always consistently there in marketing. Just that the ability to collect data, whether it's sample data, because they can't go and collect data from every single user. So they start doing sampling techniques. Sampling is a very good form of statistical techniques to know what is there. Or they used to go with like, okay, just distributor data. You just have primary sales data at the distributor level. Let's not worry about what consumer. Using this, can we predict and forecast how the data is there and other things? That's where almost all the MNC marketing firms in India, and also Ogilvy's and others, and all, spent a lot of time on research, and they also used to hire quantitatively oriented managers to actually bring in. It wasn't only copywriting on one side, let's show a great copyright. It was also like, let's get the data, let's figure out what people are looking, whether right from the time when the Nirma wheel wars came in, like what are housewives looking? Is it price? Is it quality? Is it how it feels in your hand? Does it burn after some time? This thing, each and everything had data before it actually became a kind of a in your copywriting became an ad, and how the messaging worked and other this thing. To that extent, like I was talking to the consumer research guy at Cadbury's. This was actually 13 years back when I was talking to him, and he was talking about the net size Cadbury went through 4 years back behind it, where like how sweets are evolving in India. How do you present a sweet? Which communities, by which occasions, what kind of sweets do they use? How do you then get to this? Because Cadbury's was going through the whole this thing about like There are Indian suites, there are foreign suites. No, we can't just be a foreign suite. We want to be there in every occasion where people gift sweets and other things. And that also had huge consumer research on to knowing like which occasion. Okay, you pass, I'll give you Papu Pass Ho Gaya campaign, or like there is a good news, or there is a Diwali, there is Raksha Bandhan, you have to start putting in sweets and other things. So data was always consistently there in marketing. The whole part about the whole web and mobile, when it started, you were actually able to go and figure out the user behavior right at the time of point of purchase, and also before point of purchase at each and every time. How much time it took for him to decide, how did this change data, time series data change by city, by category, by kind of company, each and everything. You were able to see that. Now you have this data. So the same thing, the same statistical techniques which we used to do in sampling and other this thing, now can be applied at scale with data science. So in essence, marketers were fundamentally oriented towards data and figured how data along with the creativity helped. But it was more like now you have more and more data, and you have more data than what God should give anyone. But now you can find patterns around it. Now you can figure out how things are working rather than this thing.
So by the way, Cadbury's is the Kuch Meeta Ho Jaye campaign of Cadbury's is one of my favorite, next to the A Diamond is for Everyone campaign that was also run. So those two are like some of my best. Now coming to, I think, what we had to speak about, right? The current scenario. So last year was crazy. We had COVID. We had so everything changed then. B2B SaaS had
Delta
a
wave.
the B2B SaaS had a good time, honestly, there, right? Then there was the war. Then there was I think just the recession, and then now the funding freeze, right? So the entire ecosystem is changing, and I do understand that there's a lot of information and insights that you have, right? Because as soon as that started, we work with a lot of companies, and everyone, like the marketing execs at different companies, started to almost like push brakes and started changing their strategy, and we were at the execution of all of it. So we saw how we are executing different things, how we are changing strategies for different companies, what is happening, and then now things are, I think, settling down a little. But how have, just like the basic or at a metric level, how have things changed? Maybe cost per clicks, conversion rates, like just what do you know about?
See, at a very overall level, everything has a change, and there is this huge party euphoria which happens. And now I think we are in the hangover phase, and things will get settled and other this thing. From an overall metric space, from January to let's say July, August, and this thing, we have seen a significant decline in spends, overall spends. Very, very simply, if companies which were spending $100,000 on a monthly basis, they have started spending $60,000 on a monthly basis, or companies were spending, let's say, more than 50K or something of this sort. They've tried to rationalize to 30K because they want to rationalize. They see a very large spend category. They just directly go and attack it. The first place to just take it off and see what is happening. You could also see some tweets on the app world where like an academic CEO saying that, okay, from 18 crores a month, we have now gone to 2 crores a month, but the app installs haven't changed, or the revenue hasn't changed, and other thing. Those kind of immediate knee-jerk this thing, bringing down spends in a very fast way, that has consistently happened. What is also important is the cost per leads have also come down. So what you were seeing as a cost per lead earlier to what the cost per lead now has also come down, which is natural. If it's a demand supply equation, if there are so many people spending, so many people bidding on kind of competitor keywords, if that reduces, automatically the kind of CPC and the CPLs and the CPSQLs, cost per even converted leads and everything, those things have a natural change to it. That's at one level, which is happening. The other clear metric is the whole kind of like a revenue velocity cycle, or the cash conversion cycle. You were earlier spending so much. Let's say you were spending $100,000. You were getting, let's say, 1,000 leads, which is one level of saying that, okay, $100 per lead. From the 1,000 leads, you were able to convert, let's say, 10% or 20%, which was there, and other things. So you were able to get 100 SQL or qualified pipeline leads, which were there. And from there, you were able to convert. And this cycle had a certain amount of time. And this is not just at the spend level. We see the whole cycle right from website session to contact demo created, to MQL marketing qualified lead, where they qualify the lead, to sales qualified lead, sales accepted opportunity, where it becomes a pipeline, to all the way up to this thing. How is this pipeline changing? That has significantly changed as well. So while for one company, which we saw like spends have gone down by 28%, the whole conversion cycle has actually gone up by 70%. That's what one thing. The amount of conversions, that is percentage of conversion into SQL or into pipeline, this thing has moved down from, let's say, a 0.6% all the way up to 0.4% of this thing, gone down by almost 33%, while the spends have just gone down. So this overall has a much different effect on CAC, but more importantly on the revenue velocity. One more thing, which is also unique, which we were seeing for one other SaaS, multi-million-dollar SaaS company, which is this thing. This up to MQL, there were two things which were happening. One, up to MQL, whatever the amount of conversions which they were getting earlier, 3 months back, to what they are getting now, and other this thing has actually increased. That is like earlier it was somewhere around 2.5 to 3%. Now it has actually become 5.3%. Amazing. This is something like everyone should. Also, including the kind of time to conversion for MQL has also reduced or remained same. Where like earlier it was taking 3 days, now it is also taking 2 days and 10 hours or something of that sort, which is kind of remains same or like marginally reduced. So you should be happy about it and other the same. But the nuance here is from MQL to SQL. That is while you are getting MQL, people are interested in checking out the product, saying that, okay, I'll sign up for a lead. Your ads have been optimized and this thing, and I'm signing up for the lead. From MQL to SQL, both the conversion rates and conversion time have increased twofold. That is, conversion time has gone up by 2x. The conversion rate has gone down actually from 0.2% to 0.1%. So this is kind of like, one more time I'm repeating this, while number of MQL conversion rates have actually increased and doing very well, MQL to SQL, that is right from qualification to pipeline or customer one, has actually increased, both in terms of time and decreased in terms of conversion rate. So this is very important. People are checking out, people are signing up, but downstream data has actually gone for a taste. And this is very important for marketers, because marketers are generally judged by, I am here to optimize your marketing qualified lead, not just the demo sign up, but I'll also qualify the lead. I will use it as a HubSpot field, use a feed loop back to it for TCPA and convert and other this thing. You are doing a very good job there. So you're getting a lot of qualified leads, but qualified leads don't end up as pipeline leads or conversions. And that's something which is very, very important from an overall marketing standpoint to look at. And even the sales will start questioning it, like, you can say you're doing the very good job, but if the revenue doesn't hit the base, then we are not doing very well. So that's something which is one realization which is coming in. Another counterintuitive realization which is also coming is companies have invested in two things while they are reducing spends. Now they are cutting down aggressively more spends on experiments, saying that I used to keep 25% on experiments. Now I'm going to cut off the whole 25% on experiments. I don't want to run experiments and try to figure out. I'll just do what is working for me. That's one thing which is happening, which is okay, which is normal, which you feel and other things. Other thing is companies, and especially both creative marketers and ad agencies who are working, or even the performance marketers, have now come back to start optimizing their landing pages, bounce rates, individual kind of like looking at each and every keyword and other this thing, and also the target CPA campaign and other this thing. This has increased in conversion rates at the MQL level to increase, specifically in this company. Earlier it was somewhere around 2.5 to 3%. Now that has moved to 5%. Why? Because they have invested a lot on terms of like trying to optimize it very, very well and making sure that each and every dollar counts for better. So in a kind, because of management kind of overview or overlook after the YC letter and Sequoia letters and other this thing, spends reduced, that's okay. But more importantly, apart from spends being reduced and cutting and other this thing, they are also optimizing far better now. And because they are optimizing, tools like us also come into place, like, where is the bounce rate higher? How do I increase things like find that 1 or 2% at each and every level better, or also look at the whole end-to-end analytics or the sales velocity better? All those things are happening. Having said all this, still sales conversion rates are in a dangerous zone compared to 3 months back. While MQL is good, SQL is not converting very well. And that's something which marketers need to consistently look upon and work upon and other things.
Yeah, I think this is amazing, because we've seen something very similar with most of the accounts that we're running, right? So just one thing to add. I've seen companies behave in two different ways, right? One, when there is a huge panic, right, and there's this pressure that comes in. So one is that there's a lot of things being cut, right? And we've seen a lot of people not understand that when you cut experiments or you cut certain parts of the account, starting it back up is not as easy, or like it's not a switch that you can pull out, right? So that's one. It sounds very simple, but that's, I think, one major difference in companies who are doing this well versus who are not, right? Like, and second is, we've seen that when you're planning something, right, there's this risk factor that's there, and how long does a plan take. Companies were able to take into consideration what how risky is changing your strategy completely, because I think a lot of marketers only see that, hey, if we do this, this is the good thing that can happen. But when you make a change, there's a lot of negatives that can happen. So I think taking that into consideration, there's x% chance of this negative impact coming into the account. That, I think, is another thing that we are seeing a lot of, like,
No.
from a management perspective, like, differences, right?
That's totally understandable, and it's like something like when panic hits, it's throwing the
Yeah.
baby with the bathtub as well, which is
Mhm.
it's more like a behavioral finance attribute where, like, suddenly you
Yeah.
see some recessions and stocks falling, you just sell everything, irrespective of whether you have Reliance or whether you have
Yeah.
Infosys,
Yeah.
companies which are going to last for multiple years and other this thing. You just sell thinking that it's going to be bad. Let me just keep cash and other this thing, and then you enter the
Mm.
market with a lot more pain and other this thing. The same thing
Yeah.
happens in the way of marketing decision making. And as I said, this is that hangover phase where, like, you are puking everything. You just don't want to eat anything. You just
Yeah.
want to take some medicines and stick with whatever that is there. But the best of marketing teams and companies also take a step back and say, like, okay, what is my runway? Is my runway
Yeah.
there? There are the good part about the whole last year is companies have raised so high amounts of monies, especially in the
Yeah.
Series A
Yeah.
levels itself. I'm not even talking Series B or Series C level.
Yeah.
Series A levels itself, which gives them a huge cushion to actually keep fighting for a much longer time. That's one part which is very good. So, which is one thing. Second is when they actually look at the whole numbers and other this thing. One thing
Mhm.
which they have to understand is it's very easy to say, like, let's cut budget by 30%. That's fine. And
Yeah.
leave alone the fact, like, where to cut, whether it's by attribution, whether
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
actually look at, it's very easy to reduce by 30% and other this thing. But what they don't understand is 30% cut in the whole kind of, let's say, marketing budget. Let's say you are spending
Yeah.
100K a month, you are now bringing it down to 70K a month. This $30,000 which you save can at least cost at least couple of more deals, or five
Yeah.
more deals.
Yeah.
And let's say your ACV is $20,000, and if you're losing three deals there, that's $60,000 loss directly and then.
Yeah.
It's not even worth it for the amount of the thing. Yes, earlier to now, my CAC to LTV things have changed, but still, at any given point in time, do you want to lose these deals in the cycle? Do you want to
Yeah.
get off these leads in the cycle? That's because marketing, compared to sales, marketing is the only thing which is giving to give you a non-linear function of growth. That is, like, even if there are 5 sales qualified leads, even if it takes 2 more months to convert now, it is still 5 leads which you can eventually convert with better discounting or somewhat. But that revenue in hand is far more important than whatever the amount of spends which you are doing. And hence,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
good to actually spend. And other, this thing is something which is a bit of an education, but the best of marketers and companies which have gone through some bit of cycles and all understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So while we also see, we work with companies right from very large unicorns to
Yeah.
Series E, Series B companies to all the way up to Series A and growth stage companies and
Yeah.
first time
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. The differences which we see in terms of reaction is very large companies continue to up their game, be a little more alpha, because they
Yeah.
know every dollar might not give same equal dollar in payback. No, it's going to take $1.50 or maybe 70 cents or 80 cents in this thing. But even that 80 cents is important for me. I'll try and figure out how to
Yeah.
cut costs in later, but I'd rather do it. Is what we are seeing differences in how companies react in different stages as well, and then
Yeah.
how they this thing. And one thing also, one historical thing, whether
Yeah.
it's a 2000 recession, 2008-9, the thing
Yeah.
which we had,
Yeah.
then we had the funding crunch in 2016, even the 2019 COVID, post 2020 COVID break and other the thing, things last anywhere between 6 months to 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, and other
Yeah.
this thing. Companies are built for 5 years, 10 years. It's not like even VC fund cycle is far more than
Yeah.
that. So it's very kind of disappointing, and you have to shout or coarsely to say that, guys, go back to the basics, understand what is your revenue cycle, understand your CAC, understand where
Yeah.
things are money,
Yeah.
understand how each dollar is important in terms of revenue, not just as a cost level. Because companies say that each dollar is important to me as as cost, they don't look at how each dollar is important to them as revenue as well. Because and SaaS is a recurring business. Once you get a customer, you're going to work with them for the next 3 years or 5 years or even much more than that. So and also there is expansion revenue which can come from each customer. So you have to look at it from those angles as well.
I think I think I really want to cover the channel perspective of this, right? Like, where are people spending time and money, right? So based on what we have seen, the obvious one, stop social, push everything to search. That's one major trend that we've started seeing. Second, we've seen an increase in outbound. Like, I think a lot of execs must be feeling the spam in their inbox right now, really. Third is all the quote unquote free channels, right? Like SEO, right? We've seen an increase in focus there, right? And and one very interesting one is something that people have all been talking about, but I haven't seen a lot of companies be able to really work on, is partnerships. So this is what I have seen, like an increase in interest or like shift in interest. Do you have any information around this? And also content syndication is something I've seen an increase recently.
See, a couple of these things are obvious. It's saying that let's put more money on intent-based ads rather than serendipity-based ads and brand marketing and other this thing to keep on top and other this thing. And also saying that, okay, let's do more outbound emails because it's easy to, you have the same guy, just put another guy to ask them to send 20 more emails and let's see if any one of those converts. And emails are very cheap and they don't see it as a cost for the whole brand and other this thing. They start doing that. And they'll shut down social and figure out other channels also. The only thing which is a mistake which happens is shutting down both social along with while increasing search intent ads has a lot of this thing, because anything the whole B2B life cycle and even SaaS and other companies, social is where people serendipitously discover, then they come into organic, then they start reading your content, then they search another ad and then they come to your brand. But the brand awareness is very important. There's always a touch point and how you trace it back. That's something which you do. Like, while you can think that this is converted this time, the first time when they first visited your website or clicked on an ad was 3 months back, and that was through let's say a social channel or something of that sort, and then they got created. That's something which is a counterintuitive, which is happening. Partnerships is growing, and it's actually growing for multi-product companies very well. For example, someone like Freshworks, they work a lot with partnerships, and partnership-driven sales outcome is actually increasing because they can now bundle up 2-3 products and sell better, and then figure out this thing. For single product companies selling via partnerships, and that too at the early stages, is kind of would be a lot more waste of money, and kind of like for them to actually get the focus and ROI coming in at the early stages, that we haven't seen very, very clearly happening and moving up and other this thing. What we are seeing is companies trying to go more mid-market and enterprise sales. It's simple. It's like a same thing. Like you are a startup, you can't sell to another, let's say, a little bigger startup and then try to make this thing. Rather sell to, they say that 2 rodents don't make an elephant. So you have to figure out how to actually bump it up to sell to a more mid-market and more large enterprises, even though if the sales cycles are longer, then find a way to actually get a foothold there and then build it up and other this thing. Content investment now and SEO optimization now is pretty obvious. People ask for it, but it's unfortunate when people ask for it, because these things take 6 to 12 months at the minimum for it to evolve. Your whole content strategy, how do you rank your pages, how this thing there, and then there are so many other things. But it's unfortunate people invest on it when they feel that, okay, there are other costly channels and other thing. Rather, they actually spend on those costly channels to still, once again, the same point. While they see as $1 of cost or spends are important, they don't understand $1 of revenue, how much important it is. So that's where it is.
So I think we have just 3 or 4 minutes, right? So very quickly, so I've been speaking with a couple of different companies, right? Like even in sales conversations, I'm looking at, okay, what do people really want? Should they really be running ads? And one thing that keeps coming up is like people don't know what is happening. Like really good companies, Series B, Series A companies, like I speak with the director of marketing and they have an idea of what's working, but then as soon as you ask that, hey, like what's the ROI, what's the time to close? Like when I ask those questions, they don't really know that. So obviously, like so yes, revenue attribution is something that I think a lot, you mentioned this as well, right? A lot of people are leaning towards now and giving that importance, because they just are, they feel that handicap now, because there's this pressure of optimization versus expansion that's increased right now, right?
That's
So
true.
uh, how do you select a software like that? And I know you won't be very salesy, so like how do you
Nice.
select? So should you go for it? And if you do have to go for it, what's the framework of thinking about this?
So my thing is pretty simple. When you are looking at software and also analytics and other this thing,
Mhm.
it's like first and foremost, you need to have your data in cleansed, clean way.
Yeah.
Second, the other thing which you also need to understand is like whether at what stage do you need it? Are you spending on multiple channels? Are you spending on kind of you have a pretty complex stack where like
Yeah.
there's a HubSpot as a marketing automation tool, or then there's a Salesforce CRM, then you're spending on 2 3 channels, and you also have a website where you have the huge content play and other this thing. Does each
Yeah.
of these things come into play? And now you feel a data problem. So many things are happening, I don't know what's happening, where it's happening. That is, I'm spending
Yeah.
on 2 3 channels and the thing. If you're spending only on Google ads, you have only HubSpot as an ecosystem, Google HubSpot connector and other this thing, you can do it pretty
Yeah.
easily. You don't need a external kind of a this thing.
Correct.
Or on
Yeah.
the other hand, if this and if your sales cycle is also like couple of days or couple of weeks or something like that, if you
Yeah.
want to have even your product freemium trial data, and plus you also want to have your kind of content data and other things working out
Yeah.
and the thing, that's when some product like ours come to a visibility and other this thing. Until then, it's basically like try and see what best you can do with simple ads,
Correct.
kind of like a Google Analytics and other this thing. But the problem which
Yeah.
is also coming is now is like what you're seeing is even basic Google Analytics, it's getting blocked in multiple places. There is a
Yeah.
third party. Google Analytics is a third party SDK. The bad part about being a third party SDK is they get blocked everywhere. Mozilla Firefox has
Yeah.
stopped blocking it, and specifically if you're a kind of a developer tool product and all those things, developers
Mhm.
generally use a Brave New Shield or an ad blocker shield, and then they also use another thing to
Yeah.
cancel so many things which are there and come through and other the thing
Right.
that's happening. But once you are above a certain kind of a this thing and you want to measure each and everything, you choose a
Yeah.
product to see the end-to-end analytics attribution,
Got it.
and then also
Yeah.
do funnels and other the thing, seeing where your sales cycles are and other the thing. That becomes
Mhm.
a this thing. But before that, also make your data in clean format. That is, are you using Google Tag Manager properly? Do you
Correct.
have very simple CRM hygiene? That is like you
Yeah.
get together all your CRM data and very clear. You have clear stages defined and other the thing. Those things. Most important, do you have a marketing person in house? That is like
Correct.
there is an in-house marketing person who can actually direct marketing activities very very clearly for you.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I know we are up on time. One experiment that you've recently seen that you think it's worth checking out? Any experiment from you or someone else? Yeah. A marketing
So
experiment.
one is like very kind of
Mhm.
working on the copywriting part very, very clearly. That is like
Mhm.
one, both your website and making it very, very useful and kind of attractive on how you actually benchmark your website. For example, Wingman did something like they benchmarked themselves as most innovative conversational intelligence platform. That's one thing which they did, and that was
Yeah.
something which was kind of like pretty where like you are fighting against the Gong and the Chorus, and which are all multi-billion-dollar
Yeah.
companies
Yeah.
and backed by different kind of thing. How do you position yourself in this kind of a space is one thing which was there. Second thing
Yeah.
which was also there is like how copywriting in search ads itself is going. So, for example, I was seeing the Rocket Lane ads which were coming in, which
Yeah.
they went
Yeah.
against ClickUp very clearly, and Asana's. Like when you search Asana or
Yeah.
ClickUp, the first ad is like, "Are you looking for Rocket Lane or something?"
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
quirky, which is like this thing you things which improve your conversion rates at the landing page or at the search. When you have a search volume and how do you convert the search volume into qualified clicks, those are the kind of experiments is what will actually create the top of the funnel very well and get you as many MQLs down the line, and how you optimize those MQLs, because that is where a good amount of innovation is very very clearly important
Yeah.
and useful.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. I think we're up on time. Thank you so much for doing this. This
Yeah.
was hopefully this was very helpful for people who see it now or the recording. So yeah, thank you. If you want to check out Srikrishna or Fractors, we'll have links in the comments or wherever this has been posted, so you can even like go connect with him, shoot any questions to him directly. Yeah,
Sure.
thank you for joining.
Firstly, thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to chat here in front of a live audience. Thanks a lot, Ishaan. Always great talking to you, and thanks a lot, Priyanka and others also for making this happen.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.